Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, kind of invisible financial trap that catches literally millions of people every single time a mega event rolls into town. We're going to unpack the absolute massive gap between two hardcore fans who make very different choices when the World Cup lands right in their backyard.
So, to really wrap our heads around this, I want you to meet Danny and Wes. Now, they're exactly the same age, they live in the exact same city, both pull in the same $55,000 a year, and here's the kicker. They both have exactly $9,000 sitting in their savings accounts. And yeah, they're both massive fans of the game. But this summer, well, Danny's spending his entire $9,000 to scream his lungs out in a packed stadium with 90,000 strangers. Wes, on the other hand, he just took that exact same $9,000 and invested it into a broad market index fund, right from the comfort of his living room couch. As you'll see, over the next 20 years, the financial gap between these two identical starting points is, well, it's going to make your stomach drop.
Section 1, The Trap is Baited. How $60 becomes a $9,000 lifestyle.
Okay, so let's dive right into this trap. Because honestly, the ticket itself, it was never actually the expensive part. That's the whole trick. Danny sees a group stage ticket for $60 and thinks, hey, that's basically just a nice dinner out. But then the escalation begins. Step 1, dynamic pricing kicks in, instantly pushing knockout round matches into the thousands. Step 2, this tournament is spread across countries and cities that can be up to 2,000 miles apart. So Danny needs connecting flights at peak summer prices literally just to follow his team. Step 3, the hotels. Look, host cities know the whole world is coming, so hotel rates don't just go up, they practically levitate. We're talking frequently tripling their normal nightly rates. And finally, step 4. You can't go to the matches without the gear, right? Boom. That's well over $100 for a polyester shirt just because it's got a great story attached to it. And suddenly, when you add in the rental cars, the ride shares, and oh yeah, the wildly overpriced stadium beer that somehow costs more than the parking, and the parking that costs more than that original $60 ticket ever did, it all just snowballs. Before he knows it, Danny has completely blown through his entire $9,000 savings. This trip didn't just fit into his budget, it completely ate his budget and licked the plate clean in just a matter of weeks. Section 2, The Villain, the business of turning off human judgment. Now, this brilliantly illustrates the real issue we're dealing with here. See, Danny isn't making a weak or foolish decision. Not at all. He's actually responding to a highly engineered machine that's quite literally designed to turn off his financial common sense. Dynamic pricing? It's not some glitch in the ticketing or airline system. It is a calculated algorithmic system built to find the exact moment your rational judgment goes quiet and then just stand there charging you for it. Which brings us to a foundational rule of event economics. Scarcity plus obsession equals the most profitable equation in the world. When you combine this equation with ticking countdown clocks and super aggressive once-in-a-lifetime messaging, a little switch just flips in your head. The switch that's supposed to check prices gets completely turned off, and you just stop asking what things actually cost. Why? Because you're absolutely convinced that the normal rules about money are suspended just this one time. But here's the thing. The normal rules of money always return, bringing along what we call the post-party hangover. Because Danny didn't have a massive surplus of cash lying around, this trip was likely financed. And the internet makes this way too effortless with buy now, pay later buttons. They chop a $2,000 decision into 4 easy payments, a phrase perfectly engineered to make massive debt feel like a light snack. When you slap a couple $1,000s on a credit card at north of 22% interest, that invoice is going to easily outlast the actual month-long party. Oh, and let's not forget the ambient spending for folks at home too. The betting apps promising easy side income, the extra streaming subscriptions you totally forget to cancel, the massive bar tabs. You can easily drop $900 without once feeling it leave your hand. Section 3, The Quiet Violence of Compounding. The financial power of absolute boredom. All right, let's pivot back to our other fan, Wes, and see how his situation builds. Because Wes did the absolute hardest thing in personal finance. He did absolutely nothing. While his friends were blowing up the group chat with stadium photos, Wes sat on his couch, fought the agonizing, very real urge to blow up his financial plan, close the ticket tab, and just let his broad market index fund do the quiet, boring work. Now, I want you to look at the sheer compounding math of investing every 4 years. It's wild. In year 1, Wes's $9,000 just sat there. By year 10, growing at the stock market's long-run average, it doubled into the mid-20,000s. But remember, the World Cup comes around every 4 years.
So imagine Danny takes a trip like this 5 times over 20 years. Meanwhile, Wes resists that urge and invests that same $9,000 every 4 years instead. By year 20, Wes isn't just sitting on $60,000. No way. He has amassed north of $150,000. So, over one working life, Wes's boring, quiet spreadsheet basically bought him a paid-off car, a kid's tuition, or put a very serious dent in a mortgage. Danny, on the other hand, he converted his $9,000 into an experience that peaked on a single weekend. 20 years later, Danny is left with some 10-year-old photos, a worn-out see-through jersey, and a story his friends are probably pretty tired of hearing by now. Section 4. The plot twist. The unseen memory dividend. So the crucial takeaway here is that Wes is an absolute genius, and Danny is a total fool, right? Well, actually, hold on. The honest math cuts both ways here. A mountain of really stubborn psychological research shows us that spending money on experiences actually provides much longer-lasting happiness than buying physical things. Possessions just kind of fade into the background over time. But memories grow. In your mind, you naturally edit out the bad parts, the sunburns, the overpriced beer, the flight delays. What's left is the sheer joy of the game. Plus, just anticipating the trip for months pays this massive joy dividend that a new gadget simply never could. Furthermore, we really have to look at the context. The 2026 World Cup is not just some normal annual event. It's the first World Cup on North American soil since 1994, and the first one ever with 48 teams. I mean, this is a rare, monumental phenomenon happening right in Danny's backyard, right while he's young enough and energetic enough to actually chase it. So you see, Danny didn't just buy a seat at a match. He bought a memory. Think about it. If Danny takes his 7-year-old son Leo to a game for the one home World Cup of his entire childhood, the shared memory they create pays a dividend that absolutely no index fund on earth can ever match. When Leo asks years from now, "Dad, were you there?" Danny is going to have a priceless answer. Section 5. Making the intentional choice. Beating the group chat and the spreadsheet. Because the villain of this story was actually never the World Cup itself. It was the unbudgeted, highly manipulated, debt-driven financing of the trip. The good news? You don't actually have to pick between being Danny or Wes. You can be the rare, intentional fan. This fan plans ahead. They save up cash for 2 whole years instead of just financing the trip in a single afternoon. They intentionally pick one group stage match to attend, and they willingly skip that wildly overpriced marquee final that would instantly double their budget. They buy just one jersey, and they absolutely, unequivocally refuse to finance the experience. This way, they get almost everything Danny got while keeping almost everything Wes kept. And, just as a fascinating side note before we wrap up here, host cities actually fall into this exact same trap, just on a much, much larger scale. When cities spend public money on stadiums for these mega events, they frequently see an average return of -38%. It is effectively public money being lit on fire for a month-long party. And it's all because everyone, from the local fans swiping a credit card to the mayor issuing city bonds, completely forgets to count the true hidden costs of the event. At the end of the day, neither Danny nor Wes is a complete fool. The only real fool is the person who never checks the price before that countdown clock hits 0. So the next time an algorithmic system is screaming at you that an event is once in a lifetime, take a breath, pause, ask yourself to make the intentional choice. Look at the real numbers, look at the required debt, and ask yourself, will you have the weekend or keep the decade?